maintains the garden. So hers is beautifully manicured garden with greenhouse. She grows stuff. She does jam all the time. It's stunningly beautiful. And then we've got a fence the other side of the kind of the shared walkway, and then our side is just carnage. Every now and then we just kind of get through with got a quite a powerful strimmer, so we just sort of like strim it all back down, level it all out, and then come back in another few months' time to try again when it's kind of reached knee height.
I used to not really bother much with garden tending at all, but then I kept getting big dogs, and the dogs basically leave minefields everywhere. And like, you don't want to be the house that stinks of dog poo, and you don't want to be stepping in it, so you got to clean it all up. You got to mow the grass down. It's just gross. It's a lesson that you learn very quick.
I mean, surely that's what concrete was invented for.
Yeah, but that's also ugly. Like, what?
You paint it green, it's fine.
That's true. I mean, what's it? What you can get AstroTurf, that'll be fine. Or just burn your feet in the summer, but you don't. That's fine. Just lose a few layers of skin.
We've had the we did a little patch of that fake grass stuff, the decent stuff that actually it looks reasonable. But then realizing that a lot of other people that have that then start to vacuum that instead of it's kind of part of the routine, and you think, I'm not going to be one of those people. I'm not mowing the lawn, so I'm not going to vacuum the plastic grass.
I mean, it's got to be a bit quicker than mowing the lawn, though, right? Maybe.
Yeah, but I mean, there's better things to do with your time.
It's got to be a good thing to see if you just look out your window and see your neighbor just vacuuming their entire lawn.
Just get a leaf blower.
Yeah, exactly.
Blow the stuff to one side.
Just blow it to whichever neighbor you like least.
It's definitely one way to do it.
Yeah, bottom of our garden is wilded, shall we say? It's just, the number of times we've tried to get on top of it. It's just at the moment it's a collection of brambles, nettles, wildflowers, and there's a couple of pallets in there somewhere as well, I think. And the
all natural flora and fauna for a garden.
Yeah, and the roof box for the car.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
But we get some wicked brambles down here. The ones that come in, our next door neighbour. We've got a compost heap and a kind of a log store, and you can't get to either because A, there's some fence panels in the way which I haven't yet installed, and B, the fence panels are now kind of semi-covered with brambles. Yeah, there's just thick. I mean, some of these bramble stalks are like 20 feet long. Yeah, they're just like, and some of them are
these the kind of like grip onto you and just take you
they're
down.
vicious.
Just pull you in.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I wouldn't want to go anywhere near it.
Like you throw something in there, it just belongs to nature now. It's gone.
Yeah, it's like the if you kind of see some of the more gruesome versions of like Sleeping Beauty, where you've got the kind of sort of the castle surrounded by thorns, and the like. Yeah, and the kind of was it Sleeping Beauty where the prince gets blinded? Or was that one of the other grim stories?
I don't remember that one.
Yeah, it's what if you read the kind of the proper version, right, as opposed to the as opposed to the kind of sort of Disneyfied versions. They're really horrible.
I only know the Disney version, but I've heard, it's something that I kind of want to read if I ever get round to actually reading anything at all.
Yeah, we've got the big massive book of the Brothers Grimm stories. I think I've opened it once or twice and then just can't. Oh, that's too many words.
I mean, I used to read a lot when I was younger. Like I really just kind of sat in the school library and really enjoyed it then. But Oh, I don't know. It's just really hard. If a book doesn't get me in like the first page or two, that's just no. I just don't have time for this anymore. I could be doing literally anything else, or just get the synopsis on Wikipedia.
Yeah, but I
But
mean,
not for me.
obviously, I'm very much a reader, but it's one of those that's thanks, Andy. Yeah, very much the same. Even with audiobooks as well, you know, you get the wrong narrator or something, and it's just, you know. No, I'll catch that. You know, I'll, like you say, read the synopsis on Wikipedia or something, or you know, just catch it another time and knock it down the list. And
I wonder. My wife is currently reading a book called Stolen Focus, which is kind of all about how kind of the internet and other stuff is just kind of sort of stealing our ability to focus and
the TikTok generation kind of thing.
Yeah, and the effect that can have on things like learning and sort of education and the like. And once she's finished it, I'm going to probably try and have a read of it. And I think there's something to it. I think I sometimes do kind of think I just want to switch off all the social medias and stop watching YouTube and the like, because I know it does take up some time, but 98% of my friends are all through social media and the like, and
Yeah, I mean,
but I miss reading books in the way I used to. You know, when I was a kid, I'd read 4 or 5 books a week. Yeah, normal sized books. Yeah, Lord of the Rings was 1 week on itself. But yeah, so I would read a thousand page of novels per week, as well as doing kind of homework and watching TV and all that stuff. But yeah, pre-internet.
Yeah, it's reduced number of channels, reduced number of media, and now you can get an immediate hit of dopamine whenever the hell you want from
and
whatever source tickles the most.
Yeah, and I think there's probably a lot of it. But I kind of misread. I loved reading books. I still do, but well, I know I still do. My to be read pile by the side of my bed is huge, and the number of books that I start but don't get round to finishing is.
But the thing is, though, Andy, is you can't accelerate your reading pace quicker than what you read at. You can click the toggle on a YouTube video, or you can click next on an image very easily, very quickly.
True.
You can't force your brain to read and consume quicker.
I'm a quick read. I used to be even quicker, but I've slowed down a little bit. I mean, yeah, a super quick read. I mean, a low brain novel, one that's easy words and not too low reading age novel. I could knock out in 150, 300 pages, knock out in 3 hours.
So when I do read on the rare occasion, it's not any kind of fiction. It's just like I'll read through articles and things, but again, that's all online, and I can kind of get that a lot easier. But like yourself, Andy, like I was a quick reader when I did read, and even now, I don't know if I don't take in the whole things or not, but I can just kind of like scan portions and just kind of take it in chunks.
Get the gist, yeah.
And I mean, that's kind of how I've always read, even when I was younger. I don't feel like I miss anything when I do it. But yeah, I feel like I could also do that if I did get back into books again.
Yeah, it's like practice, isn't it? I mean, I think I suspect. I think if I just stopped watching YouTube, which I don't want to do, because there's a lot of really good stuff on YouTube, and I've got a massive backlist.
Just disable your one tab, you'll be fine.
Yeah, I thought probably what I need to do is either delete my one tab, or all the YouTube on my one tab, and then kind of just limit myself to kind of 1 hour per day max or something, and not storing. I need one tab that won't record any YouTube. That's kind of maybe what I need.
What you need is a personal assistant to go through your one tab and delete stuff for you without you knowing.
Yeah, don't suggest that to my wife. Yeah. Yeah, it's. Yeah, I think we choose, don't we? We have more choice now, and I think we end up choosing kind of what input we take. And you're right.
FOMO is a big thing.
The dopamine hit of watching videos.
I think a lot of it as well is, I mean, a lot of YouTube stuff it doesn't require your full attention either. I'll often have just some building video. Like I got into woodworking in a big way about a year ago, just because the YouTube algorithm decided I started needing to watch woodworking in like when I'm doing something else. But it's just videos I'll have on while I'm doing work or while I'm just like pottering around the house or anything. I'll still
probably association to me and Andy, I think.
It might be that, yeah. So I've learned a ton about wood. Like a lot of this stuff I don't even notice I've learned until I come across a thing where it comes in handy. And it's like, I swear I've seen that used. Like what was the thing where you can like bend plywood? It's like kerfing or something, isn't it?
Curve cutting.
Yeah. Like, I didn't even realize I knew what that was until the other day when I needed to do it. It's like, can I just cut this like several times? Now I got round plywood. Like,
it's like the Matrix, man, just learning by osmosis.
But I think that kind of thing also plays a lot into, or just a lot of people preferring kind of digital instant media over reading. Well, you can't really do something at the same time as reading. That takes all of your focus.
Yeah, well, yes. I think it depends what it did. I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. When I was a kid, I would literally be reading a book whilst the TV was on, whilst also I took to kind of sitting in the lotus position for ages. So I'd be kind of doing yoga while watching TV, whilst also reading a book.
And he says he's not neurodivergent.
Really? That's
I
don't know.
I was taking the lot in, but then was I taking enough? I mean, I certainly can remember some of those books, and I enjoyed the books. And sometimes I'd have to go back and read a bit, or stop because there was something particularly interesting happening on the TV. But I used to be able to take in huge amounts of. I still can. The recall sometimes is a bit harder, and there's certain things I'm no good at, like pop culture references. I can't remember pop culture references, and I've got no interest in who's directed which films or anything like that.
Or it's
we'll sit you down. We'll get all of Futurama into your brain, and then that will push everything else out.
Futurama or Taskmaster first. Yeah,
it's navigation and geography for me. I couldn't point to anywhere on a map, and like if sat nav hadn't been invented, I'd probably have gotten lost somewhere in Mexico by now.
I'll try to aim for India.
I've genuinely ended up headed towards Wales when trying to go from Bournemouth to Nottingham before. It's almost a straight shot between the two, and I still got that wrong.
At some point, you were driving in a straight line north, and then you just went, I'm going to turn left.
It was just my wife just pointed to a sign. It's like, that's not right, Mike. Like, what are we doing? It's like, no, I'm all right. We're all right. It's like, no, we're going to Wales, man. Like, you don't live there.
Well, it's a nice place to visit. I mean, there's some great people there. Yeah, and some lovely views.
Yeah, but
it's not Nottingham, and it's the different side of the country, but.
Yeah, we hadn't really had plans on where to sleep that night in Wales, so it would have been interesting.
Just turn up at someone's house, knock on the door, and say, "This isn't where I live. Can I sleep here tonight?"
I mean, this is Nottingham, right? I mean, I don't recognize this area, but there's trees nearby. It's got to be Sherwood Forest, right?
This is number 4. I live at number 4. Let me in.
There are some castles. You got a castle in Nottingham. I mean, it's an easy mistake to make.
Well, it's basically Nottingham, like. No one can say otherwise. But everyone's got their blind spots in what they know. Mine is absolutely where I am at any point.
So you know how fast you're going. That's the main thing.
Most of the time. Most of the time, I'm pretty sure the little number on my car matches the number on the sign.
I'm glad you chuckled at that, Andy.
Yeah, I mean, for me, navigation is I'm navigably strong. I'm generally knowing where things are, where I am. I'm generally really good at. But as I said, the random facts about pop culture just straight over the top of my head, and I just can't remember stuff like that either. There's certain things I can read. To be honest, I'm hopeless in exams. I can tell you which book it is. Something. I can look at a question and go, right, I know which book, and I know which page in my folder, and all that.
Which shelf? How many books?
And I can process it. I can process the information. If it was an open book exam, never had to do an open book exam. I'd love to. If I have an open book exam, I can find information really quickly, and I can process that information really well once it's in front of me. But sometimes kind of going, I know it's something to do with Thingy Bob, what's it? But I can't quite remember exactly. Give me an open book exam, I'd be fine with that.
I often struggle with the if there's two options, I can generally figure a justification for both. So like the clock's changing, the spring forward, fall back, or spring back, fall forward. That either would work. One of them's correct, and when there's like two options, I often struggle between the two, trying to remember one of them and discount the other, and then both of them are stuck in my head.
Calculating a gradient on a graph. There's one about kind of rise and run, which supposedly something to do with stairs. And the number of times over the years when I was teaching, I'd be doing gradient in sort of physics, and some kid would go, "Oh, it's rise over run or run over rise." I don't know which way around it is, and I'd be like, no clue what you're talking about. Can't remember stuff like that. Yeah, I struggle with some of those. Yeah.
That's what we got Google for now. That's why you just carry a phone who knows everything for you.
Well, I think there's an Einstein quote, wasn't it? It's why remember something when you can write it down?
I mean, that's the whole point of written language anyway, isn't it? It's basically how we got to where we are. We didn't all just remember how everything works.
Yeah. And we all know that your computer slows down the more stuff you store on it. So,
yeah, I mean, that's a fair comparison.
That's the basis of what's it called? There's a productivity system called Getting Things Done, and for the life of me, I can't remember the name of the guy who invented it. But his general kind of principle is get stuff out of your brain, get it written down. Making sort of lists and having priority lists and things like that. And it's I don't like all of the system, but actually there's a kind of basic principle of if you're trying to do something or if you're working on something, the more of it you can get written down. And the idea of what is sometimes called a Spark file, where you kind of keep information and you just sort of slot it away for future reference. It's quite a powerful thing. But I've got to look up who did it now. David Allen, with two L's on the L and an E. It's quite it's a good system. Some of it is a little bit awkward. It can work better for some people than others. You have almost like folder with, you have two sets of folders, one with actually more, but two basic sets of folders. So you have like a dated folder 1 to 31, and then you have a folder with all the months of the year, and you can kind of sort of slot things in. And then you have like master lists and also your Spark file, and once you've got this kind of organization system down, you just get everything out of your brain, everything into kind of the right place, and then just everything becomes easier apparently.
I think if I did that, I just forget these folders exist. Like I'll make the notes, I'll put the things in there, and I'll be like, well, job done. Don't need to look at these anymore.
Very much with you on that. I've been over time trying various productivity systems that have been very similar idea of get it all out of my brain into a thing, and then I can refer back to it. And then I forget all about those once I've put a few in, and then go, oh, new productivity system. I'll try this thing where I put all of the ideas in. So I've got about probably 10 different things that I've got various bits of stuff in over the last 15, 20 years. The latest one is Obsidian.
So like self, I've tried a few different things. Like I've got a whiteboard in my office. I've got another one on the fridge. I've got little post-it notes everywhere. Problem is, like, I think it's like a weird ADHD quirk as well. Eventually, they just become invisible to you. They just blend into the background. The best approach I found for myself is on the home screen of my phone. I have a little sticky notes thing. Every time my phone opens, it's just there. I can't ignore it because it's right in my face. Like sometimes it'll still be invisible, but not nearly.
Mine is exactly that. I've got a to-do list right on the home screen, and then now all of the things on that to-do list have just become part of my phone screen.
Yeah, that still happens as well. It's not as much as with like the whiteboards and the sticky notes. I'll still occasionally like swipe through and realize like I should have done that like yesterday. But it's better than anything else I've tried so far.
Yeah, I would overfill something like that.
I have done.
I tend to use paper most of the time. So I have kind of lists. And sometimes they end up getting lost, and sometimes I end up getting a pile of lists, and then you need a list of lists. But generally, the kind of my day-to-day is controlled by just a piece of scrap paper. To be honest, that I keep if I print something off and it doesn't print quite right, rather than just throwing it away, I just tuck it into I've got a pile of scrap paper, probably 3 or 4 centimeters thick, and I'll just grab one of those and just kind of either I might do something just for today and just scribble on, and then it just sits on my keyboard or next to my keyboard. Or I'll do one for kind of maybe 5 days or 7 days and just write on, okay, so I know, okay, so Sunday, Maker's Waffle posts in the morning, Maker's Waffle in the evening. Monday, Maker's Waffle, kind of sort that out in the morning. Tuesday morning, men's shed. Wednesday morning and Tuesday evening, Tesco order. Wednesday morning, Tesco delivery. So the kind of things that actually just fit in every week. They're the same every week. They kind of go on, but then I'll put lists of things like added things like, home insurance or car tax or fix the toilet seat or repair a.
For me, they all have to go into Google Calendar with reminders, and then when the magic rectangle shouts at me and says, do this thing now. Oh, right. Can I do it now? No, I can't do it right now. Change the reminder. That's like the only way I can get shit done.
I mean, thing I've done a few times is it was a lot easier when everything was like paper mail, but now everything's paperless. So I'll sometimes just print something out and put it on top of another thing that I know I'd end up at later. Like I'll put it on my work laptop. Yeah. And it'll just be there in the way of me doing work. I have to get it done now. Or I'll just completely blank it, move it to the side anyway. But it's an extra obstacle to get through to try and get this thing done.
Yeah, I use alarms. I use alarms on my phone rather than sort of thing. So if I've got particularly if I'm doing something for somebody else. So, for example, needed to get a 42mm Forstner bit for the men's shed for cutting holes in wood for putting little inserts for tea lights. And it's like, okay, well, so it goes, in order to remember that, if I just try and remember it, that's gone. So it went onto my phone straight away as a alarm for a certain time, like 3 o'clock that afternoon when I knew I'd be at home. And then it's kind of thing. And it might not necessarily get done then. It might get moved to another time, or it might get written down on a list. I don't have the list because the list sits on my keyboard when I'm at the men's shed.
Yep. Yeah. I was talking with my wife the other day about that kind of thing of, options for remembering specific things. Like I've got the loop earbuds, and I want to remember to use them more often. So I just forget that I've got them, and I wanted to make a thing that was, watch strap type thing, but for the other wrist that wouldn't interfere with, mouse usage and working, but would have the loops there ready in a similar kind of fashion to having the watch. And she's like, why don't you just put them in your pocket or in your coat as a permanent place for them, and then write on your hand loops, or put a bracelet on that says loops, to remind you if you've got the bracelet on, you haven't got your loops with you. Take the bracelet off, put the loops in that kind of. That's a much more sensible thing to do, and it's understanding me from an outside perspective.
It's it's just overthinking something that it should just be a simple solution.
Yeah, or buy another pair of loops, or buy 2 more pairs of loops and stick them in places that I generally have. If I've always got them in my pocket or something like that, there's no excuse for it. But
that's kind of how I've solved the solution to always losing pens. Like, it's not loops, but I
buy
bought
all of them.
Well, I bought like a bulk pack of 200 about a year ago, and my thinking is that many pens, there's always going to be one somewhere nearby. Like, I should just be able to look and it did work until recently. I've really been running out again. I need to buy another 200 pens.
I love those kind of like productivity hacks of leaning into your privilege. It's that kind of acknowledgement that you're doing all right. You've got a decent job to be able to do that kind of thing, to account for your own brain silly things. I used to get really frustrated with pairing socks, trying to match, because I'd bought the same socks but over time. So I'd buy like 10 pairs, and then however many months later I'd go back and buy like another 10 pairs. So I had this kind of array of socks that were all the same type of sock, but at various states of use. So then you're trying to pair them up and match equally faded or equally, kind of worn socks. And I got to a point a couple of years ago, I just went, sod this, bin, because there were loads that were holes or worn out or whatever. I bought it was a crate of 100 socks, all identical, from someone on eBay. It cost me about 40 quid. So they're not great socks. They're just in bulk, 100 pairs, and that was it.
I mean, to me, it's at some point, it's like, how much is your time worth to you? Like, I can spend
exactly
20 minutes looking for a pen, or I can spend, like 20 quid on a massive bundle of them, just spray them around the house, and they'll always just be there.
Yep. I did the same actually yesterday with, because I'd had the same thing for just bog standard 13 amp plugs. For the amount of times I've had, when you get a bit of electronics, and you get the standard British kettle lead, and then you'll get the one with the Shuko plug on the end. Cut the Shuko off and then keep the cable, because at some point you're going to run out. So then I bought a bag of just 13 amp plugs and put a few of them in a load of places where I might need to put a plug on. I did exactly that same thing yesterday. Of like needed a plug, and I knew there was one that had been in my eye line from like the other day, so I knew I could wander to where I knew the last one was, grab that plug. No idea where the other 5 or 6 are around the house, so I'll buy some more. But I knew where one was.
I mean, you'll know where the others are. I mean, you'll know where at least one is at some random point, and you'll be able to just kind of remember, like, I know I saw one. Maybe
see it
in the kitchen.
If I find 2, I'll just leave one where it is and then move one back to that other place that I know a plug lived.
Yeah.
I don't think I've done too many things like that. I mean, I say that, yeah. I mean, I've got my notebooks, these orange notebooks. I've got another pack in the cupboard, just so I've always got plenty of notebooks and pens. I mean, there are hundreds of pens in this house. They always have been, but that's kind of more the fact that I don't like getting rid of pens. I just can't declutter them. Especially if it's a nice pen. I mean, I hate to think. I mean, I hate to think how many pens are behind me right now. Yeah, it's certainly. Don't know if it would be the triple figures, but it would certainly be kind of mid-double
high doubles.
Yeah,
I could guarantee that between like the walk between my office and my workshop, there's probably just a trail of pens like buried in the mud, scattered in the grass, just kind of wedged under the door, maybe.
Yeah, you think you were mowing grass? Maybe they're just old pens.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I've thrown enough pens out there. There's going to be a mutation. I'm going to grow a pen tree.
be useful. Yeah.
It's still fruit all at once, and then you've got to, kind of use them all up before the ink dries out.
And you think
pen jam?
You think I could make a business out of this to just selling these naturally grown organic pens? But I'll pick them and I'll lose them immediately. They're lost.
Naturally grown organic things that you could sell. Someone sent me a thing earlier that was someone's pace of life was so chilled that when they needed to put a new handle on a tool, they would put the tool head on a branch and then wait for it to grow the handle.
What?
So they had like axe heads and pick heads and things as well, and they just had various trees growing around their property, and then would just place the tool head on the branch and then wait for it to grow.
I think
so
I
just
saw
had
that
lots of them around the house.
Pretty sure I saw that scene in Avengers with an axe.
Pop culture reference, Andy. You got it.
Yeah, I got that one. Yeah. There's a couple of more right with. I couldn't tell you who directed the Avengers, any of them.
Was that Whedon? Was it just Whedon? I think he did something Marvel. No idea.
Absolutely no idea. I couldn't tell you the director of probably any films.
In fairness, I couldn't tell you which of the Avengers films that was in either.
That I could tell you. It's actually it's part 1 of Endgame.
Is that Infinity War?
Yeah.
Infinity.
Sorry, yeah, Infinity War. Infinity War. First part.
I mean, my youngest and I are big Doctor Who fans. Yeah, a few years ago we watched after my kids got introduced to Doctor Who with I can't even remember what series it was, but with Jodie Whittaker. I think that was the kind of first time they watched any Doctor Who. Fairly quickly after that started, it was like, particularly with my youngest, we ended up watching all of the ones that were available. So that was all the new kind of Doctor Who that was on iPlayer. And then it's like, can we get BritBox so we can watch all the original Doctor Who's that are available? So over the course of, I think, 2 years, we watched every single available episode of Doctor Who. And yeah, she can kind of, she can list off all these kind of the particular names of episodes and stuff like that. And I'm just like, no. And she'll go, oh, that was one that Stephen Moffat wrote, or that was the one that Russell T Davies was sort of showrunner on. And I'm like, no.
My wife's able to do that stuff. I'm just like, oh, which was the episode where he did the thing? Because that was kind of funny. It's like, no, that was written by Moffat. We don't like Moffat. All right. What about this other one? It's like, no, that was also Moffat. Moffat's really bad at sticking to the rules of the Who universe.
Yeah.
Would that be the Whoniverse?
I think it is the Whoniverse. I think it is.
Gotta be.
But it's as bad as Chibnall. But that could be quite a long discussion. Yeah, but Russell T Davies. Yeah, we like Russell T Davies in this house, although he's a bit of a tease, particularly what's happening at the moment with the 3 specials that are coming out. Who knows when? We know one of them's going to be in November. We don't know when the rest are.
I don't think I've seen Doctor Who since who's the older guy who
Capaldi?
That's the one, yeah. I think a few early episodes with him. I haven't really seen much since then. I'm not sure why, because I kind of liked him as the Doctor, but I think I just got bored of TV for a while.
I didn't like Capaldi initially. Really didn't. I almost sort of stopped watching, but I kind of stuck it out, but partly because I'm a bit of a completionist, and partly because my youngest was watching it, and it's like, well, if she's watching it, I'm going to watch it, etc. But he grew on me. He really did grow on me. I do like it. I think Tennant is still. I mean, I grew up with Tom Baker as my Doctor. Sort of growing up as a kid, hiding behind the sofa, chasing the Daleks and the like. And I didn't particularly like the ones that followed after Davison and the other two, kind of Colin Baker and the other one. But the I really liked Tennant. Matt Smith I didn't like initially either, but again he grew on me a lot. Capaldi I really didn't like initially, but again he grew on me. I'm looking forward to the new. This trailer came out yesterday. Yesterday or the day before, for the new new release. I wouldn't say new season because there's only going to be 3 episodes initially, and it looks like full of action. So that will be good.
I mean, you've got to feel a bit bad for Eccleston sometimes, though, because like he did start the kind of the more modern Doctor Who stuff, but I don't think he's very often said to be like a favorite or even kind of in the top 5, even if there are a top 5. But
yeah, he only did one season, which probably didn't help. Yeah,
there's that too.
So maybe if he'd done a bit more.
It's always Tennant who wins it, and fair enough. He was really fun as the Doctor. So I did like Matt Smith as well. I don't think there's any that I really disliked. I haven't seen much of Jodie Whittaker, is it? Yeah. I haven't seen much of hers yet, but for the little that I have seen, also seems pretty fun.
Yeah, I think she was a fun Doctor. I mean, there was some controversy over kind of too much kind of political, not correctness, but kind of political writing within it. So there's a bit of that. There's some odd stuff happening with it. It kind of almost changing the entire Who universe, which kind of a lot of people didn't like, and some of it didn't quite make sense. And it's just like it was like almost like that kind of sort of idea when somebody kind of does something and you kind of go, "What have you done? You just made a mess of it." And some of it just feels a bit like that, just because there was some major ideas introduced that completely change how the whole thing works. So
I mean, to be fair,
that always happens, doesn't it? Over things that run for a long time, is everyone's kind of headcanon of that particular reality gets tweaked or changed, or
but sometimes it's little things. But yeah, it was major. It was major with that. Yeah, this kind
they
of
didn't
like
paint the outside of the TARDIS red, did they?
oh my god, they did, didn't they?
I wouldn't be surprised. But there was just kind of who is the Doctor or what is the Doctor? There was all kind of sort of stuff about that. Yeah. At one point, I think a huge portion of the universe just disappeared.
Thanos.
Yeah, but more than Thanos. It was more than half. Yeah, at one point it was just like there was Earth left and something else. Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was down to like 98% of the universe had disappeared, and it was just like, yeah.
I think there was a part that really bothered me in the Matt Smith stuff, and it was like they always like to spout off these rules, like a Time Lord can't go in their own time stream, or they can't interact with themselves or anything like that. And then
they wrote a pension.
They just completely ignore it. Like the whole Pandorica box thing is just basically inside, like, was it Amy inside her own time stream? The Doctor goes and has chats with himself somewhere else. Does a big team up with something else as well. And it's just, I really hate when they like make these really hard rules and then just completely ignore them the next episode. It makes no sense. I know it's all fiction and it's just dumb as hell anyway, but make rules, stick to them.
Yeah, I feel your pain. Even though I don't watch any Doctor Who stuff at all, I very much feel that pain from the other stuff that I do watch.
It's difficult though. I suppose it's difficult as kind of if you're inventing universes and everything else,
and getting other people to write sections for it as well.
I mean, I absolutely get why it happens, but it's still just always going to be a pet peeve of mine. Of like, you just watch something, it's like, you said you couldn't do that last time. Why are you doing it? You're just ignoring it, just making stuff up now. It's like you might as well just call this fiction.
Yep.
But then I start feeling like I'm going to join the groups of people who got mad when the Klingons changed foreheads.
I feel that one.
It's like there's no point getting mad at it. They're not real. They're just angry space guys.
What do you mean they're not real?
I'm sorry. I shouldn't have told you that. I spoke too soon.
The Vulcans are still real though, right?
Of course. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just gotta wait for Zephram Cochrane now.
Oh, he'll be.
Warp engine going.
I think he was supposed to have been born like 20 years ago if we go by original timelines. I think we were supposed to have the eugenics war by like in 99.
It should have been started by now, yeah.
Yeah, man, really got this timeline messed up.
that is one of the all the new Trek stuff, and people sort of talking about like strange new worlds. The ship's massive compared to the original series and Kirk's Enterprise, and why did Kirk have this little tiny bunk that was basically the size of this office, and Pike's got this massive studio flat, basically, in the one wing of the Enterprise kind of thing. And technology is so much better in modern tech that was set in modern Trek that's set earlier, and then but the amount of stuff that was later Trek that messed around with the timelines. That's why that's happened. There's always someone always retcons it somehow.
Funnily enough, there is. I don't know if either of you have watched Strange New Worlds or what plan to. I mean, there is like a specific moment in the latest season that does kind of explain a lot of it.
Yeah,
and it's just straight up events will always happen, but maybe delayed a little bit. So it can totally explain why stuff looks a bit different, but still kind of follows the same general storyline. I can get on with that. That works for me.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about like future space socialism. I'm just gonna go with it.
That's what's keeping me on track a lot of the time. Avoid news, and then just look at Star Trek Future. As a bit of good to aim for. Although we watched Demolition Man recently. Me and my wife. That was a really, really kind of. It's always been a fun film, but just that realization of this could so easily happen.
It's great having a kind of an audience for this, isn't it? Eric's.
I've been corrected.
Contact. Yeah, Cochrane was born in 2030. The first
Where did he get the dilithium from for his first?
I think it was I don't know, some kind of just native radioactive stuff. I don't think he used dilithium in the first one. I'm trying to remember First Contact now. It's been so long since I've seen it.
Yeah, same.
I'm pretty sure he did use an old nuclear warhead, or just like a nuclear shell, to actually make it, though.
Sounds about right. Yeah, it's been a while since I saw it too.
I mean, as good as future space socialism does look, you got to remember there were like at least 2 massive global wars before then.
As Q told us.
Yeah. I was betting Elon Musk will start one.
Oh shit! I forget he exists. I like to pretend he's just like a bad dream, or like just a bug on the internet. He doesn't actually exist.
The end credits to come up and find out who's actually playing him.
Actually, Eric's coming in again. What's a nuclear reactor from a missile warhead being repurposed?
Okay,
beautiful. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, but I mean, it's fiction. I mean, this thing with fiction, it's like, I mean, I'm now, but certainly as a kid, I was a big James Bond fan. Yeah, I'd read all of Fleming's books probably by the time I was 12 or 13, which is possibly not a great thing, considering the content of some of them. But yeah, if you look at the films and how I mean, obviously you've got the elements of each Bond portrayed by a different actor had different characteristics. Mm-hmm. You've got the whole sort of timeline of Bond, from back in essentially the 1960s through to 2020s, and the technology that's changed with those. It's like, how did it last so long? And the whole kind of if you were working for an organization such as MI6 and the villains all know your name, you're probably not very good at your job.
I mean, there's 2 fantastic headcanons for me with Bond. One is that that it's never the same. It's never James Bond all the way through. That each one is a completely different person that is given the designation James Bond 007. But the other headcanon is that Sean Connery's character in the film The Rock was actually his version of Bond, who was caught and imprisoned and then had to escape from The Rock.
I could see that would work.
Yeah, and it really does when you sort of dig into it. It's even the story of it in that film of talking about him being, sort of British Secret Service or Special Services or things like that. There's a lot of it that straight up just works.
Yeah. I mean, there's a couple of issues there with kind of, Bond was a commander in the Navy before he was moved into military service. If you go back to Fleming's original canon, and the character in The Rock was described as being ex-SAS, which
he'd have probably been an SBS then in that sense.
I mean, it would make sense. It also
certainly in those days would have been SBS. But then, of course, the Americans always get SBS and the SBS don't exist according to
they've only heard of SAS.
Yeah, which annoys the hell out of the SBS guys. But they also kind of then go, particularly when things go wrong. Yeah, it's just like SAS. Yeah, they're quite happy to kind of just fall into the background behind them sometimes, except when the SAS take credit for kind of SBS successes, shall we say?
Yeah.
Or when people are claiming that the SAS are tougher than the SBS.
I mean, it would stand to reason they'd also kind of fudge his details a little bit officially, given he's supposed to be a secret agent.
This is true.
Like they could have just changed it to like he just worked at Starbucks and committed treason.
Well, I think it was Universal Exports, wasn't it? Yeah. There's some pop culture I'm okay with.
Yeah, exactly.
I couldn't tell you who directed any of the films, except maybe Broccoli. I couldn't tell you which ones.
Yeah, God knows. No, I fall flat on all that stuff as well. I can usually tell you who the characters are or what random things they said, which annoys the hell out of one of my colleagues who can tell you every goal from every footballer from every match from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, but gets baffled at me being able to recall a character and a bit of conversation that was had on a thing I saw 2 days ago. Or 2 decades ago.
I could tell you that a football is round. That's it. That's my knowledge of sport.
I know the general principles of football. For our American friends, soccer. I know the general principles of it. Round ball is supposed to go into the opposition's net, which is defended by one person.
It's a rectangle.
To a rectangle. Yeah.
Yeah, that's perpendicular to the playing field, not one of the circularly hangy up ones.
Yeah.
The circular hangy up ones is the official term. I've seen it in the rule book. They just call it circular hangy up ball.
I think they should bring back kind of some of the original football, and I think there are some places where they still do this, where it's like one town versus another, and there's kind of the pitch is like 5 miles long, and it's not really a pitch; it's more like just the road and land between the two villages, and it's like injuries are going to happen. Yeah, the rules are pretty much non-existent.
Was this just a fight between two neighbouring towns that just happened to
with
have
football? Yeah, I think that
happened to be
was the principle. Yeah,
around some kids playing with a ball at the same time.
I mean, this honestly just sounds like the after-school kids on the field outside kind of thing.
we used to occasionally when I was in what would be kind of second or third year of secondary school, so kind of year 8 or 9 to use kind of British parlance. We used to occasionally kind of, if it was too wet to do anything else, the PE teachers would kind of we'd go into the gym and all the kind of the wall bar type stuff, which were normally kind of pinned against the wall would be opened out, because they're on giant hinges, so they can move out. So they'd have all those moved and locked into place, and they'd just cover the floor in all the available sort of mats, from the thin ones to sort of some of the sort of really thick ones. And I think they just put a thick one at each end, and then the rest would be kind of everything else. And they throw in a couple of, they'd have a couple of the gymnastic horses as well. And basically, we'd play this game that they called Murder Ball.
Yeah,
and
I'm familiar
the
with
only
Murder Ball
the
from my
only
dad's.
rule the only rules was something. Well, there were kind of rules like you weren't supposed to kind of hit each other or anything like that, and I think you weren't allowed to kick the ball. I think that was the only kind of and we'd play it with like I think generally like a softer ball rather than a basketball, or I can't remember the nature of the ball now, but I seem to remember
like
it was
the kind of dense foam kind of thing.
Yeah, like the sort of thing you play like dodgeball with.
Yeah.
And the basic principle was just kind of like, just get the ball onto the other team's mat. There was no kind of, we wouldn't have tabards on or anything like that, so you didn't know who was on whose team really, other than you had the kind of traditional, everyone line up. The two best sports people would be the captains of the two teams, and then they'd spend time going, right, I'll have him, and I'll have him, and I'll have him, and I'll have him. Yeah, because it was always boys and girls were separate sort of games in those days, as they mostly are now anyway, I think. But yeah, they'd be like, you'd be sitting there, I'd be like, I was always last or last but one. And it was just like,
was it still essentially you still had to get the ball into the opposition
to the other, into the and score that.
Because I grew up hearing about Murder Ball that my dad played at school, and I think my dad's 10 years older than you, maybe, Andy, maybe a little bit more. But he went to school in Toxteth in Liverpool around the Toxteth riots. So it's a rough area of a rough part of the country at a rough time.
Yeah.
And he always described Murder Ball to me as that there was a hay bale at either end, and it was played with a medicine ball. And the aim of the game was, two teams, and you have to get the ball into the opposition's net, or to the hay bale. If the ball happened to have a member of the opposing team still attached to it, then that was not really a problem. You just had to get that ball into the other side.
Into the zone,
that was basically the rule. There wasn't anything like don't hit or anything like that. So quite often they would just pick up the ball in one arm and a person in the other, and kind of just force their way through. I mean, so it sounds like two very different takes on the same game.
The amazing part to me is you mentioned you had the wall equipment unfolded.
Yeah, it was all out.
Never seen that before at mine. Like that, it was basically wall decoration.
Yeah, but it made it more interesting, shall we say?
I genuinely didn't even know it could unfold. I don't know why any school has them.
I think we only ever used them maybe 2 or 3 times.
Yeah, we didn't have them out very often. We occasionally had had them out, and we'd be all doing gymnastics. You'd have like circuit. It'd be like circuit training, but with the gym bit. So there'd be you'd have a bit where you're climbing the rope, or not in my case, because they didn't teach you how to actually climb the rope. They just expected you to either know it or be strong enough to just go up hand over hand. And I certainly wasn't strong enough then. And they'd have you'd be going up, and they'd have, because the benches are designed, the kind of classic gym benches. They've got these little hooks on the side, so they're designed to go onto the ramps, so you can get these little ramps as well. And it was, I didn't like PE and games at all, but I did quite like that Murder Ball. Partly, I think it's a good memory just because I did manage to score once. And I think that's because no one on the other team believed that I might have actually had the ball. that's the kind of sort of memory of it. And it's just like, yeah.
I mean, I hated PE at school as well. Like yourself, always the last one picked. I just wasn't good at sports. And one day I went to the doctors and found out I had the most pointless like syndrome. I have Raynaud's syndrome, which like messes up your hands when it gets a bit cold.
Yeah.
It shouldn't affect anything in PE at all, but I got that doctor's note. I made sure I sat out of every PE lesson after that point. I think like the last 2 or 3 years of school, I just didn't have to go. And yeah, I abused the hell out of the most benign thing I ever had.
Did you do the whole, I've just been holding a cold drink for a while, so yeah, I can't do it now.
My hands have turned blue, sir.
Like, oh no, look, I can't move. Like what?
I took Welsh for 2 years to get out of games because we had PE and games, and I could opt to take Welsh, and that would get me out of the games side of things. So I only had to do PE once a week, which was great. And then in the town I grew up in, we had year 7, 8, and 9, the first 3 years of secondary school in one school, and there were 2 of these junior comprehensives, as they were known. And then in year sort of 10, fourth year as it was in my day, we went then up to the senior comprehensive to sort of take our options and then go on to A levels. And at that point, I think I only did one PE or games lesson there because I'd had some knee issues. And I literally I'd sometimes be just walking along, I'd suddenly just fall over. There was something, I think it was just due to kind of growth, different rates of growth in sort of different parts of my knee and leg. And there wasn't quite enough strength.
Just because you hated games.
I did hate games as well, yeah. But yeah, occasionally I was genuinely kind of sometimes just literally falling over. It happened on the stairs once, which was a little bit scary. So I kind of then got given this basically medical note to get out of games completely and PE. Unfortunately, it meant that I had to go and do English because I wasn't allowed to have a gap on my timetable. So I ended up doing twice as much English as anyone else. I had full 2 sets of English, which meant I did, instead of doing kind of 2 Shakespeare plays over the 2 years, I did 4. And I did 2 plays instead of 1. And I did 2 horrible literature books instead of 1. So it was kind of like, it did give me more choice when I actually got to the exams, and you kind of like write about this, because the questions about Shakespeare are fairly generic. But it meant I had a bit more choice with that. But yeah, that was much more preferable to doing games. Then I discovered other sports like rock climbing and badminton, which we didn't do in games. So it's like, something I can actually do. I feel like my dad bumped into one of the PE teachers a few years after I'd gone to university, and the PE teacher sort of asked me how he was getting on. He said, "Oh yeah, he's really into climbing and outdoor sports now." And he was just like, "Are we talking about the same kid?" That's how bad the PE teacher thought I was with kind of regards to sport and stuff. They weren't seen about encouraging people to try sport in those days.
Yeah, everybody has to run, and that's it.
Yeah, and you've got to do football, and you've got to do rugby and cricket. Don't possibly try and find sports that actually other people might be good at. Or,
see, it's not going to shock you to find out that I ended up doing like rugby and shot put and discus.
Well, I tell you what, discus is the one that annoys me. Discus is one that really, really annoys me. When I was in year 9, so only during the PE, we had to do discus one session. Yeah, it was the summer. It was the sort of track and field sort of time of year, and so we'd had a lesson on javelin, which I wasn't very good at particularly.
Oh, I like javelin.
I did like it. Yeah, I liked javelin, and I wasn't too bad. But I didn't really have the strength for it. And then we had another lesson where we did discus. Now, I think I've talked about this before. My hands were as big as they are now when I was 13, 14 years old. And so they were actually big enough. I mean, I had the largest hand span of anyone in my year group. 9-inch wide, and I could literally get my hands around, because I think it wasn't a full size men's discus, it was a youth discus. So my hands would actually fit on the discus correctly with my fingers over the edge, so I could actually release it. So I didn't have the strength that like the champion boy who did throw further than me, but I threw second furthest with the discus, and by a considerable way compared to quite a lot of the other people, purely out of technique, and because my hands were big enough, and so I could release it properly, so it actually flew rather than just being thrown. And it was just a case of, oh, Hughes fluked it. And then when it got to sports day, and discus was one of the kind of sports in the sort of for the sports day for the kind of different houses, nope, not going to let me have a go at it. It was just like, rather than going, oh, we found something he can do. Yeah, he's always last or last but one in the cross country. He's crap at rugby and football, particularly if he's got to take his glasses off. Yeah, he can't throw a cricket ball very far. But oh, look, he can throw a discus because he's got huge hands. Like no, it's just like fluke. Like
I did have one kind of weird experience in PE, which so when I was younger, I did just like kind of walking around random places. Like I'd walk bloody miles just to go explore things, and it just meant that I built up a lot of stamina without really realizing. Just things that I enjoy. So it came time that we did cross country. It was basically like 10 times around a massive field. And I just couldn't be bothered. I just do like a leisurely jog all the way around, which it turns out is the way you're supposed to do it. Everyone else is trying to sprint ahead. They like lap me twice. When it comes to the end of it, though, I'm like at the front of the pack just because I haven't died trying to sprint my way at the beginning. It was kind of a weird one. And it's just like yourself, though. It just kind of became this thing of, well, he's crap at other sports. He probably just cheated somehow at running for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, like you say about. I mean, I took up. I mean, I was in Scouts, but then I took up kind of hill walking properly when I was probably 16. Oh, we've done it in Scouts. It was probably hill walking and backpacking and stuff, but actually kind of took it up more of a hobby, kind of going every weekend, kind of sort of from sort of 16, 17. And I mean, even now with my bad back, I could still outwalk my kids. I can't go
it's
fast.
Muscle memory, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's technique as much as anything as well. Yeah, particularly kind of over rough terrain. I can't do the. I mean, I used to be able to sort of leap from moongrass to moongrass over the Brecon Beacons. I couldn't do that now, but yeah, it certainly it was something that suited me, kind of physically. Never been great at running, but yeah, stick a rucksack on, 50, 60-pound rucksack, and I could still walk 30, 40 miles.
That's interesting you say that.
I couldn't do that weight of rucksack now. But
I find that like if I've got a rucksack on, like when I've been off on my travels and things, if I've got the rucksack on, I'm fine. I can walk all over the place, rucksack on and off all day, trains, planes, and automobiles, perfectly fine. Walk around a supermarket for half an hour, and my back is absolutely in tatters. Whether that's pushing a trolley or whether that's just walking or carrying a basket.
I think it's a lot to do with your own mood as well. Like, no one likes shopping at the supermarket, so you're gonna be all hunched over. You're gonna be just dragging it out, and you just want to get it done. But when you're traveling around, it's like your attention's always on something new. Like you've got somewhere you want to go. You're excited, probably excited, depending on where you're going. So I mean, your stature will change as well with it, and I mean, just carrying something on your back as well probably forces you to stand a bit more upright. So there's probably a fair bit going into that.
Yeah, potentially the floor as well. Yeah, if you're the hard floor of a supermarket isn't even not the same as the kind of hard floor of a tarmac road or pavement. Yeah, there is a difference in those.
True, that's true.
The stopping and starting, maybe. And the people, yeah. I was just like,
People's a big one, I
that
think.
in general public, it just shouldn't be loud.
I was wondering, given the time, are we at a point of introducing our guest?
We probably should, do our attention grabbers, yeah.
Well, I was just thinking because kind of, we know Mike is a very, very, very skilled individual, and we've waffled for an hour and 10 minutes about everything but the stuff that we absolutely adore him for.
Would you like to introduce yourself, Mike? What do you do? What do you do kind of professionally, and what do you do kind of maker-wise?
Okay, I have to narrow some of that down because I'll do a bit of everything. So professionally, I'm a game artist. I work on a game called Adopt Me. It's very much a kid's game. So if adults are playing it, it's a little bit weird. So I understand if you don't play, if you've never heard of it. But outside of work, it's basically making anything that looks a bit interesting to me. I'll do a lot of kind of prop building stuff. There's some of it kind of behind me there. I've been doing that for a couple of years now. Otherwise, it's a little bit of woodwork whenever I can. At the moment, I'm building up a camper van out of an old ambulance. And oh god,
I'm doing a very good job of it. I mean, Jamie and I have seen probably more pictures than you show kind of on Instagram, and
probably
racking job on it.
Yeah, I try to show the mostly tidied pictures on Instagram. The van is always in a state of, it'll spend several weeks looking just like a building site would look. It's an absolute mess. Then I'll tidy it up, and then the next day it's just going to be a mess again when I start building whatever's next in there. It is so hard to keep a building site clean.
Yeah,
so true.
But yeah, it's basically, or usually anything that I find interesting, I'll just go and have a go at. Like right now, the camper van build is taking up so much of my time. There's not a lot of time for trying other things, but even so, I'll still kind of put the odd small thing in there. I mean, very recently, I've wanted to have a go at just making like a little portable wind, like a turbine generator, a little simple thing, just 3D print, shove it on a motor. And then I wondered if I could build a motor instead of just buying a cheap one. And now I've been learning how to do that. And that's just kind of my process usually. If it's something new, I'll just keep diving more and more into something until I know how to build it from scratch.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, I know it annoys the crap out of you because of the same iconic build that I always flag as the thing to introduce you by. But I mean, it very much plays into what I love. But the DS9 that you made is just
phenomenal,
absolutely phenomenal. Yeah, it had me in awe because you took us through that whole process, and you've got an absolutely ridiculous 3D printer anyway. But the fact that you, from scratch, completely modeled the entire thing specifically for you to 3D print, assemble, paint, fill it full of fiber optics, and light the whole thing up, and for it to be not far off the actual size of DS9.
I wouldn't say it's quite that. I mean, the real one I think is like 12 feet wide or something. It's huge.
Yeah, that's fair.
But it's still the biggest one you can get outside of the actual like on-set model, which I'm still pretty proud of.
It's because absolutely something to be proud of. It is just phenomenal. I mean, we've, Andy and I've known you a couple of years now, in that kind of thing, and the stuff that you make anyway is just, obviously it plays into the stuff that you do professionally, and that kind of applying those skills for fun. But just annoyingly talented at times, mate.
Well, thank you. I mean, there's definitely a lot of trial and error in there. I mean, I am fortunate enough to have I've learned a lot of game industry skills that happen to play really well into 3D printing and designing new props.
Yeah.
And I've always got a thing of, if I'm going to print something, it's going to be from scratch designed, or it's going to be a copy of someone else's stuff from another game quite often. But the models and how it all fits together, the print files, that's always going to be from scratch, designed by myself. And it's always a challenge there that I like. Like the DS9 model was basically straight up a challenge of how do I make this structurally sound and light up? Because that thing is the set model has a massive kind of steel frame inside it, and even then I'm pretty sure it wobbles if you touch it. So trying to make this little plastic one that I can assemble in bits and it doesn't sag and break apart, it took so many tries to get it right. And
you say little plastic one.
Okay.
I mean, it's nearly 800 mil diameter or something like
that. About 600. Well, it's big. It's but yeah, it took, like, I'm sure you've seen a lot of the kind of trial and errors that I did when I was like, it took about a year of just going back and forth on it just to get something that worked.
Yeah.
And it's just like these kind of challenges, like, I love them. I really hate them as well, but I love them. And just because when you get to the end of it, it's just this amazing thing no one else has managed to do yet. And then you can just show everyone exactly how you did it.
I mean, that was what we loved, seeing that process and seeing that progression of it, and the challenges that you're facing, and then your creative processing in, like you said, the trial and error, and trying to look at how it might be done in other ways, and if you can improve on that.
I mean, the funny thing is, even after I finished it, I immediately figured out another way to do it better. And I'm holding off at least a couple of years before I do that. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep making better and better DS9s, and I have other things I want to make too. I mean, the Doom Crucible, the big glowy sword, I'm still working on that one. And I mean, the last time I'd done the blade for that, like, I've kind of figured out 90% to get it working really nice. But I never found the right resin for it to keep the blade nice and strong but thin. Nor did I find a good light up solution until recently, when kind of the little noodle LED things became more widely available. But as much as I got some ideas I really want to go ahead with that, my workshop is still just storage for the camper van materials, and I cannot get the space for it right now.
Yeah, I feel the pain.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that kind of.
I always need more space. It's just an infinite problem. Like, every time I make more space, it's just immediately filled with something else.
Flat surface syndrome, isn't it?
Oh, cause I just imagine having a big space, a good size big space. I mean, I'd go to the men's shed, and we've got it's a good sized workshop. Be better if it's just for me, but you have to share. But yeah, it's 23 feet by 12 feet. The main workshop. We've got a separate room for the lathe. And so it's not a bad size workshop. Yeah, it's an obtainable size workshop in sort of the UK.
I could see it filling up pretty quick though.
Well, I mean, this with the problem we have actually. Yeah, it is actually quite full. I mean, we've got 2 workbenches, and we've got a lot of kind of power tools which are on mobile benches. So technically 3 workbenches, I suppose. And we're storing wood in there, and so it's pretty soon it does kind of fill up. I mean, I think it would possibly be a bit easier if it was just my own workshop or one person's workshop, because then you could kind of go, right, we can actually put tools in places and leave them there, and not have to worry about maintaining maybe quite the amount of workspace for other people.
I mean, that's kind of one of the big issues that I keep having with building the van is like I've got kind of a little portable bench, well, like can unfold it, set it up kind of thing that I'll bring outside the workshop just so I can cut the big sheets of plywood, get all the things out that I need. But the most annoying thing is at the end of the day, when I'm all exhausted, I have to pack it all up again.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's so annoying. I'd love a workshop where I can just leave things out and just come back to them in the morning, exactly where they were.
I think I need it like Sim style, where you can just have a big expanse of property and area to work on, and then when you run out of space, you just click a few buttons and create the next property to just expand into. That would be
the dream. Or when these house printers become more commercially available, just get the hobbyist version, and just every time you need a bit more space, just print another bit of shed.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I'm at about 80% now. I better start the printer up for the next workshop.
Yeah, but like this time next month, I'll have another 12 feet squared to be good enough.
Well, one showed me. My wife likes to look at kind of properties just kind of around the country, just to sort of see what it is. It's like rather than just sometimes just doom scrolling on Facebook or the like. And so she'll be kind of scrolling through kind of Rightmove. And a few years ago, she kind of sort of found this property that was like really nice property over in, I think it was Carmarthenshire, and it was a bungalow. It had a reasonable sized garden, and it had a 40 by 20 metal shed at kind of one end of the garden, or off to one side of the house, and it was like, and it was already sold subject to contract. Otherwise, I think we might have been putting up sort of kind of bid in for it, but, and it was just, I mean, it was just grand. I was just thinking, the number of times over the years, like, you go to bed and you kind of can't quite sleep. I sort of think back to that problem and think, what would I do with 40 by 20? How would I dish it out? Have a little office for sort of clean stuff that maybe properly insulated, so nice and warm for a computer, and just nice little office space. Although there was actually a room that could be an office in the house. But then kind of a separate area for metal, separate area for wood, separate area for finishing. So get that's free zone, and actually kind of have big storage. The M6, the Jamie Heineman sort of place that they
M5.
did out of M5. They had those kind of big racks on the wall full of clear boxes, just full of stuff. You have a set of that, nice racks for wood on the side somewhere, and just space for kind of 2 or 3 workbenches. So you got a table saw with an outfeed table straight off it, and an assembly table somewhere else. But then you've got another table. So if you're doing 2 or 3 projects, you can just leave a project.
Hang on a minute, Andy. What you're saying is you want to be Frank Howarth when you grow up.
Yeah. with a metal shop, and
so you want to be Jimmy DeResta when you grow up.
Yeah, that's probably more like it. Yeah.
I know. Have you seen Adam Savage's workshop?
Yeah.
That is one that, like, I weep over it every time he shows it.
Yeah.
It just seems like there's some more that you haven't seen yet. Every time he starts a new episode on something, it's like, just how much do you have here, man? Like, I'd love.
And he wants more. He'd love more space, but he's so established there, I think, and it's I think.
Oh yeah.
A few times he's got it. He's got quite a good rent on it. So I think, but I love that whole kind of thing of. I mean, he's got everything he needs. He's got absolutely everything he needs, pretty much. But he's got, he kind of sometimes when he sort of shows he's turned around, he's got that separate room which he can use as where they used to do the podcast from. But he's got things. He's got kind of space and height to display things that have been made.
Oh, it's the height that gets me, because like when I made my workshop now, it's like one thing I really wish I'd have done is gotten. So I've got like the kind of, I don't know what you call it, like a gabled roof with the two things. I really wish I'd have gotten either a flat roof or just the one pitch roof, just so I had the extra height, just to put some extra shelves up there, because yeah, and it's just, it's a hindsight thing. Like, I still like what I have. It could have been better.
I did the same. I did I suppose it's technically a lean-to or something like that. It's a freestanding post frame type thing.
Yeah.
It's just a roof. But I did it is like two sections, two flat roofs. Well, not flat, you know what I mean, angled roofs, but both going in the same way because it's such a long, thin space. And I thought, oh no, I'll save a little bit of money. This should be high enough. I won't go for the extra 300 mil or the extra 600 mil on top of the beams, so I don't need that extra bit of height. And as soon as I put the roof on, I was like, I should have spent the extra 100 quid that it would have cost me to go 600 mil higher or something like that. And I know I'm going to have to tear it down at some point, take all the panels off and replace them with different panels. So I know I'm going to tweak it and redesign it, or probably just completely rebuild it.
I mean, recently I've been looking at other houses as well, and there's one that we went to view about a week ago, and like half the things I'm looking for in the house are just like barns, big sheds, anything I can just use. Now this place, the listing for it on Rightmove was missing half the stuff it had. So when I went to the place, it's like I just thought it had like a garage and a loft, and I just thought, you know what, garage to the workshop, loft, it could be printer space, sorted.
Yeah.
There you go there. Okay, you got the garage, you've got the room behind the garage, which wasn't ever mentioned. You've got a second loft above the garage. Then you've got like this 12 by 12 shed, fully insulated, plumbed and wired up, at the back of the garden. Then you've got like this 20 by 40 barn with another shed behind it. It's like, I'd never run out of, well, I mean, I'd survive about a year before I run out of space with all this, but like, this is the kind of stuff I want to know before I look at a house and write that down on the listing. Like, but I fell in love with the place, and now it's like seriously considering how much I want to sell my soul to the banks just to buy it. I mean,
is it going to be a forever workshop? That's the thing. I mean, a forever home. That's what people say, isn't it? That's what normal people go for.
Yeah, I mean, there was some house attached to it as well. It seemed all right, but yeah, it's basically like the end game kind of workshop area. But I'm envisioning now. I know that if I'm there, and a year later, I'm just going to be thinking like, could I put a shipping container in the back as well and just store more things in there?
The struggle is real.
It's just always going to be more space. It's never. I'm never going to be satisfied. But at some point, I have to figure out that maybe a barn, a garage, 2 lofts, and 2 sheds is maybe enough.
It's a good start.
It's
a good start.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good start. And on that point, perhaps we should just quickly segue into kind of what's grabbing our attention and then move on to the start of the after show.
Not a bad shout.
Yeah. So kind of, attention grabbers. I mean, it sounds like, looking for a house and other thing is, and your van is grabbing your attention. Is there anything else that's been grabbing your attention lately, Mike?
Oh, geez, that's a on the spot question.
Yeah, I did
Only
probably
when you want to
briefly do
shout
that. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Any particular thing you've seen lately or done? I mean, yeah, the van and the house hunting. I mean, that's more than enough to.
I mean, the van has kind of been my main focus for, well, since February when I actually bought the thing. It's nearly finished as well now, so I'm kind of happy with that. Well, I say finished, it's nearly like first version finished. It's never going to be finished.
It's nearly on the roadable.
It's nearly ready to take out and, just for the first road trips, and hopefully for a nice Christmas road trip around Europe, which it was the original plan. But yeah, house hunting, van. Outside of that, though, I don't really know off the top of my head.
That's all right. That's enough. Jamie, what about you? What's been grabbing your attention?
I've been playing around with stuff recently. I finally got my vinyl cutter back up and running, so I've been playing around with that a little bit, and pulling 3D printers apart, and just trying to catch up on a little bit of not work, really. Playing with some networky stuff, and just trying to decompress a little bit. I definitely want to urge people towards Make It So. I have a friend just rocking the Make It So t-shirt, so go buy one. How about you, Andy? What's been grabbing your attention?
Me, lately, let's have a look. Obviously, things like the Men's Shed, been doing quite a bit there lately. Tinkerage, carrying on tidying Tinkerage, almost there. I need a big final push. I've just can't seem to get past the full solo workbench that I've got. So I need to sort that out. But I've been getting, there's been a few hints on Instagram. I've bought few new tools lately. I think I talked a little bit about in after show last week, and I'm not going to give anything else away. I have recorded a couple of unboxing videos, which I need to edit. Got a couple more tools since then as well. So that's quite exciting. Something caught our friend Duncan shared a video. I think it was Duncan, or was it you? Might have been you, Jamie. I think it was Duncan. Shared a video with us yesterday of string art, something automated string art by a channel called Paul MH, and it's really quite kind of interesting. Kind of makes me feel quite stupid when you sort of see the amount of depth and detail and the process of kind of taking something to actually sort of how do you make a 3D printer like device that will actually move string around, and then kind of took it to the point of putting nails in. So you've got this head moving around, putting nails in, then it's putting string around, and not getting caught up on itself. And the whole process,
super clever.
Yeah. He also has been playing around with vacuum chambers, which is really quite interesting from a physics point of view. So I'll post the link in the description probably tomorrow. And definitely a channel if you're into kind of geeking around sciencey, 3D printery type inventing stuff. Definitely a channel to take a look at. Looks like he's been quite active on YouTube for quite a long time. But has taken a few sort of gaps. Looks to be getting back into it. So maybe there'll be more. I don't know. It's very, very interesting. Yeah. Mike, where's the best place people to find some of your work?
I've got Twitter and Instagram would be the two best ones. So Twitter would be that guy Mike. I don't remember where the underscore is on that one. And Instagram is Mike Make Stuff. I'm really rubbish at Instagram, but you find a lot less of my rants on Instagram than you will on Twitter, and a lot more work in progress there.
Yeah.
But Twitter is just kind of, I'm gonna be doing a lot of shit posting and stuff there, but you'll also sometimes catch my things.
That's Twitter's for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there'll be links to that in the show notes as well.
Yeah, I definitely urge people to check out your Instagram anyway, just for some of the ridiculous props, including DS9, which obviously personal favorite.
See, I really loved going around Maker Central last time and just every now and then just talk to someone. It's like, you're the guy who did the DS9. Oh yeah, Jamie's been here.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, not sorry.
To be fair, you weren't the only person doing that kind of thing. When I went around doing like the meet and greets with a few of the other people around there. So like Frankly Built was one of them, and like I'd learned like his videos are where I learned some of my earliest prop building and printing stuff.
Yeah.
So I went up just to meet him. I had a little chat with him. It's like, you're the guy who did the thing. It's like, cool, that's nice. Like, cool, you remembered. Like, that's amazing. And it's just like that's kind of a really nice feeling when that happens.
Yeah. Well, we can talk a bit more about that in the after show, which is available for patrons. Patreon.com/makerswaffle. So yeah, if you want to hear more of chats, then that's
beautifully
the
shelled there.
Well, yeah, I've been learning from the best. Learning from the best. Not sure who that is, but I've been learning from them. So we
sounds like it's at least one podcast with Rasmus in it.
Maybe. Yeah. I mean, setting up shop and 2/3 focused. Yeah, they do a good job.
Yeah. They do indeed.
So we shall say good night to the main listeners now,
Indeed.
and we shall dip over to the after show. So bye, folks.
Cheers, folks.